there was gold.
Yeah. It's like, hello, Max. How you doing today?
I'm very good, thanks. Thanks, Howard. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. This is Bedside Manor with Howard Chance and Max Verhamme. Um,
Yes, nice.
yeah, close enough. And we're here to talk about a few things, non-duality in general. Um, Max, there's a few people asked me some questions regarding our last couple of meetings in regards to uh, non-duality and enlightenment. You had mentioned enlightenment and spoke about it in a specific way that made a couple
Uh-huh.
of friends of mine ask, "What does Max think enlightenment is?" Um,
Okay.
and so my first question and the big one would be, what is enlightenment according to Max?
According to Max, absolutely no idea.
I'm loving that backdrop, by the way. I'm loving the new design back there. That's beautiful.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, that's yeah, I love that.
Thank you.
Blue on the orange, the fire. Yeah, that's nice. It looks
Thank you.
like it's like a almost like a sunset kind of thing. But
Yeah, well, I guess it's because of the lights, right? Because if I look like this, like I don't see anything anymore. The spotlights are right on my face.
Beautiful.
Thank you, thank you. Well, the foolish thing would be for anyone to say, "I know what enlightenment is." I mean,
Yes.
that's the complete and utter nonsense of it. That being said, I don't know. I just said there are teachers that will point, or that will say basically there is enlightenment. There are teachers, or even not teachers, just people anyway, that will say there is no enlightenment, and the seeker or seeking energy or the sense of separation, or I don't know what else, call it however you like, stands in between, trying to figure out which is right. But either way, it's an opinion. Either way, it's an opinion pointing to this. There is nothing to understand. This is it. Sourcelessness, as you put it yourself. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, it's
enlightenment as a term, why not? Sure. I mean, it's a term that's been used. So as long as it's, I would say, as far as pointing goes, as long as it's explained, sure, you know. But all I'd say is just there is nothing to. This can't be put into words, and the very idea of the very idea of knowing, it's an idea. There's no me. There's no person to know anything. That being said, once this is so-called known,
unknown,
right?
Yeah, unknown.
Once this is known that it's completely unknown, or once it's clear that it's all unknowable, put it however you like. Why one appearance can say, "I know," sure. The danger of that is how one hears it, obviously, and when it comes to pointing. From my perspective.
It really does have a lot to do with the context of the conversation. I mean, there's a million definitions for every word, it seems, and yet because every person that I talk to uses different words in different ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so every conversation has a language of its own, and two people can speak on the same subject differently, one sentence to the next, and let alone different people. So my whole thing is with enlightenment in particular, the amount of ideas that swirl around this one word. Um, it like you say, it's unspeakable. You can't even really say. Nobody really can say what enlightenment is, and it seems to be the core foundationless the word,
Yeah,
that is used, and that nobody knows what it is. Nobody can attain it. Everybody's already got it. There is no people, and it just goes on and on and on. And the
exactly,
context, the context in which the word is used, seems to me to be about as complex as it can be. Um,
exactly.
yeah, there's no real way to get your hands around it, and so along that line, that's kind of where I was uh, uh, talking to my friends about some of the things that you were talking about, and as far as I'm concerned, and as far as most people are concerned, in this enlightenment game, there are some people that will charge money for different things, and then there are people that don't. And either way is completely up to those individuals involved in that situation. Um, as far as I'm concerned, there is no right or wrong. There is no um, right or wrong way to do something that can't even be defined. Would be kind of funny, but there are some people that just make millions of dollars speaking
Sure.
about non-duality, having classes, doing all kinds of things, and there are people that stay in caves their whole lives, and so I think that uh, some of the questions were coming up from the class that you provide, um,
Hmm.
and there might be some questions that some people had, and insofar as, well, how can you guarantee enlightenment if
Sure.
what does that mean? Do you care to talk about that at all?
No, absolutely. So first, the first thing I would say, I mean, I completely agree on pretty much, well, on everything you just said. And the first thing when it comes to money, again, it's a perspective. Now, the one thing that makes my hair fall off my head really is those people who charge, whether it's a little amount of money or a big one, but they have no idea what I'm talking about, or they're not that efficient, basically. And that, well, I have a problem with. I don't look at it. I don't care. But if I start thinking of it, yeah, I mean, what the fudge? Because it keeps it keeps a seeming and apparent someone looking where all there is just, look, there is nothing to look at, basically. And that's basically what I point to in many, many different ways. But okay, so that's the first thing I would say. But then that being said, yeah, this, you see, for me, it's this idea that people, for example, shouldn't pay for this. Sure, why not? But then, I mean, there are psychotherapists that will keep you seeking anyway. And I'm not saying people don't go to psychotherapy. That's not my message here. I'm saying that will help only at best as far as the psychotherapist or the so-called person in front of you is qualified for, is free of so-called, all right? And bottom line is they're not free because they're psychotherapists. You see my point here? So or just like, why would you pay to go to the restaurant? Why would you? Do you know what I mean? So basically, this is, I mean, I'm, as far as purely practical aspects go, I'm not going to do anything else with my life. Now, I can change my mind tomorrow. Don't get me wrong, but as where it seems to be going is just, that's just what I do. I just love, just like you. You know, I like to see you, and correct me if I'm wrong, I like to see you as an individual who loves to talk about non-duality and to talk amongst friends. And oh, here's this perspective, and it is beautiful. This is not where I'm coming from. Although, I mean, I like that too. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. But where I'm coming from is, I want to help you see that there is nothing to see, and yes, just enjoy your life already, basically. The message is behind it. So, and that's, I can't explain. It's just what my brain does. And when I say it's what my brain does, I don't know, obviously, if it is what it does. I'm just explaining something here, what seems to be a functioning now. So as far as, I think the second part of your question is as far as the guarantee goes, there is no guarantee in the sense that, yeah, it can always so-called not work. Sure. And it has happened twice now on, I think, 50 people or something like this. What I do say, however, is that it has worked for 48 people out of 50. That's what I said, basically. And that's the best guarantee I can offer. And I mean, besides this, the guarantee, the practical guarantee I offer is that if at the end of it, you're not satisfied, I give you the money back, basically. And it's written, you know what I mean? So I don't want to go into the technicals, but basically, so that's as far as it goes. Now, what I will say loud and clear, however, is that it works. It's that good. It's that good. As far as pointing goes, there's always the possibility for so-called failure, sure, because there's no perfection in that way, and because whatever, because maybe I will see some. I think I'll see something in someone that I think needs help with and doesn't. I can make mistakes as well, obviously. So there can be many reasons why it wouldn't work, but in practice, yeah, it is simply. I don't mean to sound arrogant or anything. I'm saying it really is that good. And when I say it is, it's not just the program. It's not because it's. I made my own scripted program, if you will. But obviously, what happens, because I do it mostly, so far exclusively, actually one-to-ones, face-to-face, is it's 100% adapted to the person. So most of the time, I have my laptop and I'm like, okay, boom. Let's talk now. And blah, 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 blah. You know, depending on what that person seems or thinks they're coming from, basically. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, far be it for me to say that, you know, enlightenment is one thing or another, it can be attained one way or another, or can be attained at all. Is there do you have people that we could talk to that have passed your course?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
If we could, maybe the next time we talk, we can have a couple of people that have gone through the course, and maybe we can talk to them and find out what are their you know, do they have any words to say about enlightenment and the course and what have you.
Sure.
The thing being, the at least the questions I was getting had to do with the transactional nature of it, as if it could be something to buy. Now, I am not saying that is what is on offer. You're not saying I'm charging you $1,500 to be enlightened. You're saying that you can. That there's well, what does your course actually say? That
so what I'm saying is, if the person in front of me says, I'm giving examples here, okay? If the person in front of me says, well, I'm looking for enlightenment, okay, sure. You come to know, for lack of a better word, what enlightenment is, and you come to know that indeed it's just a pointer, there's no such thing, you're already enlightened, there's nothing to look for, etc., etc., etc. Right. Liberation of a so-called seeker's mind. And no, there's no seeker, no, there's no mind, but you hear what I'm saying. So yeah, that's what it's about, really. So the basically, I never ever let someone go unless they want to, obviously. But I never ever let someone go until they tell me, Max, I don't need you anymore. Thank you, or not even thank you, whatever. Yeah. Well, usually it's thank you, obviously, but usually, and you know, it's quite.
Thank you's a good hope.
And you know, it's quite funny actually, because it's not a rule, obviously, but what I tend to see is, if there is no sense of gratefulness, of thank you, as mild as it comes, okay, then the so-called point is missed, because there is nothing but this. This is what you're looking for, and there's nothing to look for. Blah blah blah. Yes, but this is what, once you come to know this, what you're looking for, and there was nothing to look for. Especially a hardcore seeker, there should be a level of, that's it. Yes, that's it. So, and there is. In practice, there always is, almost always is. I say almost always to not sound, so sure of myself, but I can't help. I am. I'm not coming from an arrogant place, if you will. And the funny thing, and being honest with you, is I have asked myself this very question, especially when I started. Like, who the fuck do you think you are to go to people and say, come on, I point this to you? You know what I mean? And I'll do it in a way that, look, I can almost guarantee, if not guarantee, yes, it will work. And then I just stop the crap, because it just does work. But okay, so what?
Could you hang on 1 second, sir?
Sure.
One second. Let me pause this for 1 second. I've got to check something real quick.
Yeah. Pleasure to be talking to you, by the way. It's
beautiful, Max. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. You know how it is. No, you'll get nothing for hours, and then as soon as you're in one of these Zoom meetings or something, it seems like it's a magnet. All of a sudden, everybody needs it. It's crazy. Yeah,
I think everybody needs an Andrew in their life in order to help them with that.
Oh, tell me about it. I love that guy.
Me too. I actually spoke to him. When was it? Last week. Been a while as well. It was really nice.
Yeah,
I love him to bits.
Yeah. He was telling me a little bit about it. He said it was great.
Yeah. Always great. And sorry, yeah.
Oh no, go ahead, please.
I was just about to say, and it really is great to be talking to you. So thanks again. Always appreciable. Always had been too long. So
not that it matters as far as time duration, insofar as enlightenment is concerned. But can you talk about the shift? Can you talk about your shift? How long has it been? Can you talk about the circumstance around it? Can you? Wow. I mean, because it sounds like you're saying that it's a kind of it's just this, and scenario, and I just want to hear a little bit more about that.
Sure. Well, it's been a long and painful journey. the classic, I don't know if it's classic, but what I would like to call the classic typical journey of suffering. Like, really, just as long as I can, for as long as I can, or as far as I can remember, let's put it like this. I think I told you I was raped as a boy and as a young boy, and I like to think, I have no idea if that's true, but the way I remember it is really when I started to see something, because when that was happening, it's like I just wanted to escape, which I physically couldn't do. All right. So what happens then is what seemed to have happened then is that I realized, wow, I'm just not in this body. I don't remember if this was. I'm sorry. I'm saying it's what it seemed to be, and somehow it's like time was not there anymore, basically, and obviously isn't, but now, which I didn't. Well, and that could have been it, basically. That's it, you get it. But no, that's been the opposite for me. That's what started a long path of seeking. What the fuck was that, basically? So, what the fuck was that? And so there's been a lot of psychotherapies involved different kinds, my God, and different hypnotherapies, and then I went into energy healing and self-medication and medication, even prescribed medication, like treating depression and stuff like that, and whatever the psychotherapist would tell me, I mean, there would always be this nah, just like there's something so-called missing here. So okay, long story short, that's how I grew up as a teenager, and then as a young adult, early 20s, something like this. Then I started to work in a job that was absolutely not for me. So I worked for 8 years as a sales guy in a bank, which was just, my God, horrible for me. No offense to, but just, my God, what the hell was I doing? Anyway, and at some point, I finally took one of the best decisions of my life as far as seeking goes, which was to just cut the crap, stop it. So from the day to another, I just left. I just left work, and I went on the Camino de Santiago, which is a long so-called spiritual hike in France and Spain, which lasted about 2.5 months. That's where I met my wife, actually. So anyway, long story short, and then I was a lot into the new age, I don't know if you know the whole new age spirituality, like the higher self, lower self,
crystals and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly, crystals, energy, and
divinity.
Sorry,
divinity. Well, what's your take on divinity?
That was not my path, not really, because I was raised as a Christian Catholic, and I was quite a believer actually up until I was, 14, 15 years old, where I was just like, I'm just talking to myself. So that was clear. That was clear to me. That was just, I'm just talking to myself. I mean, literally.
Right.
So
and then we find out that words don't even exist.
Exactly. Well, that came much later, but yeah, and then thoughts don't even exist, and blah blah blah. Sure, okay.
Blah blah
so,
blah blah.
Oh, and I which reminds me, by the way, I think you posted that yesterday. You posted you posted 2 things which I love. Just simple. There are no thoughts, and I was like, yeah. Why not put it just like this? Beautiful. Just there are no thoughts. Period. Period.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you. I found that very beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much for looking. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's sometimes
I'm sure I do every now and again. Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little jarring for people, But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can explain it, but it essentially burns down to thoughts don't exist.
There are no thoughts, and I forgot your other quote, but that was something like the reason it's so simple is because everything is as it seems, or something like this. And I read that as well. It's exactly as it seems, and I read that and I felt like to the dots. It's that's it. I mean, that's it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Sure. But so anyway, long story short, that was part of my story of seeking. But how the so-called shift happened, and seemingly happened, let's put it like this, there was not, there are several moments which I can, but it was realization after realization after realization again, and then going back there. Okay, I've seen this, but how about this? I've seen that, but how about that? And I'm not even sure about that anymore, but no, wait. And then on and off, but step by step, liberating my thinking process, if you will, my seeking pattern. Let's put it like this, step by step. And so at some point, one of the important shifts was to come to know basically the truth of who I am. Now, when I say this, I know some teachers will say, yeah, but you can't point to who you are because it's this I know, and it's not what I mean. It's not in the way that, because yes, they're right. It's not what I mean. What I mean is, what became clear is that this very question, who am I, makes no sense. That's what became clear, basically. Makes no sense. But and so the words that came basically was like, of course I know who I am. Just like, of course, there are no thoughts. Does that make sense? Of course, I know who I am. Of course. Who doesn't? Who doesn't? I mean, that's the thing.
What do you mean I can't know anything?
Sorry?
What do you mean I can't know anything? I'm here now.
Exactly. But that paradox was done, basically. This idea of basically knowing, not knowing was done. That doesn't mean the seeking pattern was completely gone. A lot of it left with it, but not everything, basically. And that's what I mean, realization after realization. Then after that, what came basically a few months later was that realization, a thought is just a thought. Now tell me what isn't potentially a thought. And that was like, and with that, I include the very noticing, the very smelling, the very, it's thoughts. When I say thought-based, I don't mean necessarily a worded thought or just, there are no thoughts, right? But we seeming, our body laptops, as I like to say it, our computers with legs, like to use thoughts naturally. So basically, it won't ever be otherwise. It's just, of course, there still are no thoughts. Anyway, you obviously get what I'm saying. So that very realization, but I know who I am, everything else with inverted commas is a thought, which links the whole thing together. Now, after that, there was still this sense of me, I would say, that would still appear and would be believed on the spur of the moment. All the while knowing it's bullshit, all the while, there's nothing to know, but there would be situations where, because I still placed a level of value or importance, if you will, in certain experiences, in certain emotions, certain feelings, basically. And thinking some shouldn't be there, or some I would like them to be, all the while so-called knowing it's bullshit, but I mean, it was not 100% clear. And those left basically step by step, again, realization after realization, until, let's call that the final realization that there was never anything to realize. And then there's nothing to realize. The very attachment to this idea, to this experience of realizing left. And basically that was it. If that makes sense.
Sure. There's enlightenment, or at least the story of falling away. It reminds me of just clouds flying around the sky. Generally speaking, the people that I know that have had a shift or anything like that, come about it very haphazardly. Generally speaking, it's I do hear people that go to Zen schools or classes or whatever, but for the most part, ironically in this situation, people can go to a Zen school for the monastery for 50 years, 60 years and never get it. People can go to anything like hardcore non-duality, and never really get it. There's a lot of folks that cannot seem to get it. However, they do have all the knowledge. I'm often taken back by the amount of stuff that seekers know, the ones that have been around for a long time looking. Some of them wear their time in looking almost like a badge of honor, and you start talking to them and they know so much about so many different teachers, and they know everything about all these different ways of looking at things, and but they still haven't got it themselves. And I don't know where I'm going with that, other than
we never do we?
Odd to me. It's a little disconcerting sometimes, because I'll speak to a seeker, and I spoke to one guy who had been looking for, 50 years, something like this, and that guy was like an encyclopedia of genres of non-duality, all the different little nuances and finer distinctions between the different genres. And I had nothing. As I guess as the story goes, his cup was so full, I had no idea how to talk to him. Everything I said was like, "Oh, that's from this," or "That's." I had no idea. But in any case, But then the Zen guys are pretty easy to pick out. Um, but in any case, I digress.
That's
About
all right.
your
Digress away.
but yeah, the funny thing about this enlightenment story is that, as you were saying, it progresses slowly sometimes, and there's some falling away that happens in a progression as it seems, as it appears.
Yeah, it seems. Yeah.
It seems that it gets, and within those appearances are these meanings, different sets of meanings for different types of vocabulary. So, like, once the self falls away, other falls away, these objects, subject, object, um, all these things, it just redefines how you discuss it within a language. It
does.
redefines all things. So it's kind of like layers of conversation and almost sedimentary. Like if it was geology, it would be layers of different type of rock. It's really so it's impossible to have a flowing conversation without having to read between the lines. It's impossible.
It's for me, that's as a, well, I hate the word teacher, but I guess I fall into the category by some people anyway. So and the reason I've said, by the way, I say I hate the word teacher is simply because what I want is for people to, for lack of a better word, wake up, to just, that's it, to realize, boom. And yes, this can be seen, described as enlightenment or not. It doesn't matter, as long as it's clear for the so-called ex-seeker, right? So the reason I'm saying this is because I want to help them, and you can't help, and you can't help no one. Someone doesn't want to be helped. That's the first thing. But that being said, you cannot. I don't think you can. But you if you're having that so-called, not identity, but perspective of a teacher and a student, or something to learn, etc., that creates separation. That's the one thing. And the other thing is then, oh, maybe I should be like him, or like her, or like this. And even if the message is, you know what I mean? Even if the message is very clear, there's still the idea it could be better. I can make it, and no, it's just you. Basically, the message is you are who you are. You've always been. You always will be. Let's put it like this. But what's so see, I'm digressing myself. I don't even know where I was going.
I love this stuff because. Go ahead, please.
Oh yeah. So yeah, about this whole knowledge and then different layers and this and that. And for me, that's why, as far as teaching or pointing, let's say, goes, that's why I believe it's very important to have a message that is as consistent as possible. That's why, for example, these guys, again, just my opinion, but like Tony Parsons, Jim Newman, this. Well, I mean, it's what they do is absolutely brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Now, some people will just go away from that because it's way, it leaves no hope, which is brilliant. But the so-called seeker that's been on the path for a while and that just wants to end it, he will actually listen. Do you know what I mean? He will just, and that can end it actually pretty fast. So they are, for example, extremely consistent to the thing. Now, what I like to do personally is to use the so-called person's story and then just help them realize, so-called, that it is a story, and that again. And in that way, the message, and that's why I often use the similar words, and or I try and describe the words as much as I can within limits of language, or my own language anyway, obviously, so that it's so-called understood what is meant by this or that word, basically. Because then we start to speak the same language, and then we can actually, okay, this is what, all right, etc. And then you basically I don't know if that's the ultimate realization, but that definitely was for me, is that there is no fucking me, basically. And I believe it is, however we phrase it, this is the ultimate realization, regardless of how we phrase it. There is no me, there is no separation, there is no seeking energy, there is no seeker. There never was, and there never will be, basically.
Well, the beauty. Okay, let's get into that because now we're getting a subtle nuance in that the appearance of the individual, though, does not exist in any kind of material existential reality, as far as an object of truth is concerned. Yet they do appear, and like you were
Yeah.
saying, they appear to be unique to themselves and their own story of enlightenment would be unique to that individual appearance. So the is that what you're saying? You're saying on the one hand that they don't that the appearance of an individual is merely that, the appearance of an individual, and not necessarily the actuality of an individual, but yet that appearance of an individual is unique, and their story of enlightenment would then be unique.
Well, it's. I see what you mean. It's not exactly what I mean, in the sense that I wouldn't say. Although I mean, sure, I agree with you. You're right, but I wouldn't say, as far as pointing goes, that the appearance of an individual is unique, because that's the thing. The appearance of an individual appears, disappears, appears, disappears, appears, disappears. So in that way, it's not. But I appreciate what you're saying. So in that way, the character, the so-called character, doesn't exist. But when I say this, I don't mean in no way. I mean it shouldn't appear. I mean it has no reality. This is not you, and this is what needs to be realized. But then it's very easy to go on that tangent and say, okay, so this so-called character or this sense of me or this sense of whatever shouldn't be. It's just no. It's just, for example, if there is an appearing sense of a me, let's put it like this, that doesn't like what is experiencing right here, right now.
Right.
You okay, Howard?
Oh yeah, I listen.
Okay. So so if there is this sense of a me that so-called doesn't like the appearance or the apparent situation, the apparent experience, etc., then it is believed a lot that this should be different. And this is this very belief, this very idea that this should be different, that creates the actual sense of separation in that moment. It shouldn't be different. It's already gone. Is basically what I'm saying. When you realize that it shouldn't be different, whatever so-called experience is just never experienced by a so-called somebody, by a so-called individual. It's just apparently being experienced by, of course, nobody, by no one, basically. And so whether there is this sense of a me, basically, that controls, because that's also what it comes down to, is this the idea of real and of real, ultimately. And so whether there is this sense of a somebody that controls, or there is not the sense of a somebody that, or there's no sense of control, the point is, it's irrelevant. Sometimes I will say loud and clear, I'm going to make myself dinner. And sure, from the outside, it can be seen, well, Maxx has decided it's going, so does he think he can control it? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Well, no, it's just this very appearance. Sorry, yeah?
Well, you're speaking, if I may, you're speaking about what I am coming to call interaction, in that the even though it appears, as you are saying, it's just this, it's already whole and complete. However, even though it's already whole and complete, the individual appearance seems to interact with its environment, even though it's not separate with it. And my take on that is, if I may, if you don't,
sure, of course.
My take on that is that it is both already whole and complete, and whole and complete is random. it is random and unknowable in the same way that you cannot know, like it, free will obviously is not what's happening. I mean, an individual does not have free will. That of course is ludicrous on every face. It's impossible to have free will. It's like a married bachelor. It's just not. It just doesn't work. Um, However, what appears is much like a lamp lamps and a chair chairs, a Howard Howards. I make dinner for myself. I think. So what
Yeah,
I'm saying is that already whole and complete is random, chaotic, and completely unknowable simultaneously. And
absolutely.
so it's one of those things where um, I know that for the hardcore non-dualists that wants to say no, it's whole and complete already. It seems to me that that is a little bit of a suppression insofar as what is, because what
Yeah,
appears to be happening in this moment is the appearance of an individual who is interacting with its environment. And however, that's not actually what is happening. That's the appearance,
no,
and that's all there is. And so,
exactly.
you know what I mean? So, as far as I'm concerned, there's, you don't have to suppress your apparent free will because you are
No,
a parent individual with free will. So that's the
exactly.
appearance. Just because one part of it, and to say that the interaction is not occurring is to say that one appearance is more relevant than another and there are more real than another, like to say that no, it's all just whole and complete and that's it would be to say as an appearance um that somehow we're whole and complete as a broad overview, and that's just it. And the thing is that whole and complete is random because you don't know what's going to happen next. So as an individual in that spectrum of the apparent individual, everything appears on a sliding scale of separation or sometimes it feels like nothing is separate at all. Other times it feels like you are interacting clearly with your environment. And I float around and ebb and flow. And I like what you were saying, kind of strobe in and out of that kind of understanding, but throughout the course of the day, a million times. But the
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
it's constantly ebbing
Exactly.
and flowing in that
Exactly.
the appearance there's never the funniest thing about not two is that it never shows the exact same thing twice. You know, so you know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
not yeah,
Absolutely.
not two. It's kind of like this weird interactive movie where
Yeah.
sensation and all these things actually happen. It's already whole and complete as far as the individual's free will is concerned. But clearly, that does not mean that it is not random and interactive. So
Exactly.
for me, it seems like the whole, you know, Jim Newman and Tony Parsons, in particular, that whole genre, it appears as if it seems that they're feeding a suppressive need in a seeker,
Yeah.
and that they want to be somehow um, limiting so that they can feel that they're actually doing something. It's almost counterintuitive. It's a weird kind of it's a
Huh.
weird expression. I'm not exactly sure what I'm trying to say
Interesting.
here, but
No,
it's
no, but
almost it's the inverse of it's like yeah, it's already whole and complete. So anything that you do to interact is not valid somehow, and or is not actually happening. That's just an illusion. But everything is an illusion. It's all an appearance. It's all Santa Claus. So to say Santa Claus doesn't exist, but the kid who believed in Santa Claus did, is also just a part of the story. So
yeah.
you see what I'm saying? So it's interactive endlessly in that whole and complete might have something to do with the apparent free will, and you might have a point there, but it never ceases to be interactive and forever changing. Um,
Exactly.
and in that way, it's impossible to say one thing or another. It cannot be that an appearance cannot say, you know, this is, the end all be
which
all of why I appear here. You can't know.
which is why. Oh, sorry, Howard. Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
No, I really have a. I have a bad tendency of interrupting people because I'm like, oh yeah,
I
it's
do it all the
interesting
time.
this and that. I'm so
Because
sorry.
I
I'm so
forget
sorry.
before I want to say what I want to say before I forget it because I got 10,000 things going through my head. But I was talking way too long there, anyways. Please go ahead, sir.
No. That's but well, I think it's a very interesting take. And for me, that's the thing. What I believe, what I believe is, well, basically, those guys, the basically, well, just like me, basically, just play the role, for lack of a better word, of a teacher. No, without, I don't consider myself such, but sure, it's hard. Okay, so. And I mean, and I mean, no offense to those guys. I mean, I don't know them. I never even ever talked to them, so it's not like I mean, just anyway. But what I believe is what they try and do really is to put the seeker to help to kill all so-called hope, basically. And so, of course, what they are saying is also a story, always also part of the story, because it's all potentially a story.
Yeah.
Nothing, you see, there are no thoughts, but nothing is not a story. And it's not a contradiction. It's just, does that make sense? It's so yeah. And so that's why for me, as far there are people, again, I believe, that really just love to talk about it, and for whatever reason, it's just what seems to be happening once again, which I believe is your, oh God, you make me want to smoke. I'm gonna go outside after. But I won't smoke inside, so anyway, I'll smoke after our talk, but enjoy. But yeah, so there's the apparent seekers, right, which are many, all right, and there's the apparent non-seekers, which is seeking, someone that goes to psychotherapy, for example. Does that make sense? But doesn't know about spirituality, non-duality, blah blah. And there's many of those, even more so, obviously. And then there's the so-called individuals who are so-called awake, who get to the point, there's no point, blah blah blah, who I believe just like really like to talk about it for the sake of talking about it because it's just enjoyable, which I believe you are part of, basically. And then there are the people who like to think they have a way or no way, however you call it, to help people wake up, which I like to think I am part of, basically. And so that's why, for sake of pointing, there is no pointing that is absolutely perfect, but the pointing changes naturally. Basically, it's I don't want to say evolve, because I don't mean in a sense of progression, if that makes sense. But it keeps moving. It's life. Nothing stays forever. So everything changes simultaneously.
It's so odd. These everything that we say is we ourselves can contradict what we're saying. Like
always.
There's never a time like for example, to say progression or evolution. I heard a hardcore non-dualist the other day talking about how the world was clearly coming to a point, and I thought that was so bizarre. I said, well, "How do you know that? I mean, what are you saying? Like the sky is falling, and the world is falling apart. Can't you? I mean, can't you tell?" I was like, "No, not at all. The world doesn't exist. I mean, the world doesn't exist. It's a story about, and it's not even time or space. It's all happening simultaneously. So
it is.
So the idea that this is progressing into a worse, like coming from a better place to a worse place, is contradictory to everything that this is just an appearance says. And so the funniest thing to me is that, it, you know, it's, you know, on top of all of that, they're talking about neuroscience and neurobiology as if it was something that was actual. And, you know, so what I'm saying is all of this is just an appearance and everything is already whole and complete. And yet we're progressing into this, you know, the sky is falling and, you know, whatever he was talking about, liberals or something. And neurobiology is somehow relevant. I mean,
you see, that's the thing for me. That's a very interesting thing about everything being potentially contradictory, and it's how it is basically. And this is not a contradiction. Does that make sense? It's this very idea that the world is either going to shit or is going to get better, this and that. You see, for me, it comes down to this very idea of knowing. Now, in truth, let's put it like this, there is nothing to know. Like period. And that's enlightenment, that's whatever, realizing and coming to terms with the idea that you can know something forever, which is the truth. Basically, that's okay, that's the all right, okay, I get it, basically. There is no need to think, blah, blah, whatever. But that then, in itself, can also become the story that is no longer believed. Sure, that is no longer believed, but still it becomes the story. So the idea, the very concept of knowing, in practice, I don't know about you, but as I go through life every day, I will say this. Oh yeah, I know that. Oh yeah, well, I know that, without attaching any whatever. It's just what comes to mind. In other words, there is thinking happening, and this and this so-called thinking is this thing I know. But then here's where I'm coming from. As far as I'm concerned, ever since I got the point, my life has been much better. Now that's part of the story, all right, of course. But in practice, that's what I see every single day without looking for it. My God, wow, does that make sense? And so I think it's Ramana who said like the best gift or something you can give to the world is your own self-realization, and I agree with that 100%. So, I mean,
the best gift you can give yourself is what?
The best gift you can give to the world, is your own self-realization. Something like that. Maybe not word for word, but I think it's Ramana Maharshi who said that, I believe. Okay. And I personally completely 100% agree with that. And see, the thing is, so okay, so what seems to be happening for this body laptop that we'll call Maxx, all right, is that my mind comes up with ways, my so-called mind, okay, it comes up with ways or points, etc., that can and will talk to the mass, not like Eckhart Tolle, not like Sadhguru, which I respect what they do, so I'm saying, but this doesn't wake you up. If anything, it introduces you to spirituality at best, basically. Right. And sure, I mean, again, I don't know that, but I believe that because they reach so many millions of people, of course, statistically, some people have woken up with that, I'm sure, yes. But on the whole, it doesn't really work. And what seems to be happening here in this body laptop is coming to find ways naturally so to talk to the mass, so having relatable stories, I'm giving an example here, then in a way that can switch, basically, oh, this, oh, that, but not as in like, oh, so you are awareness, and don't get me wrong, awareness is all there is, yes, blah, 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 sure, but again, this needs to be realized, for lack of a better word. So
does the individual borrow awareness, or is awareness intrinsic with the individual?
But that's the thing, that the really, I mean, ultimately, the really is, in the sense, reality, I would say, basically, not in the sense reality, in the sense palpable, there really is no individual.
Right.
It's just, but the appearance of that individual, yes, sure, whatever.
Is
So, but yeah, but the question is, yeah, exactly, which comes first? I mean, chicken and egg, right? I mean, chicken and egg.
The paradox of it being that
chicken
everything
and egg.
that appears to be existence is within the individual awareness, and you can't know what's beyond it. However, you can't know that. I mean, the individual doesn't exist. So, the entire purview of awareness is everything and nothing, so to speak. I mean,
and again, I think you said beautifully just right here. The individual, awareness cannot know that whether the individual exists or not, basically, and that's it. Cannot know. It's all unknowable, so it's all what's happening, and that we can. That's. Oh my God! I just love the way you said it. Sorry, I just love the way you said it, because that's true. I mean, that's true. It's everything. The way I say it is everything is true. Absolutely, everything is true on the spur of the moment only. That's it.
Yeah.
Or nothing is true. Everything changes. Either it's that both statements are potentially true.
That's essentially the paradox in that the awareness of the individual cannot be exceeded. However, the individual doesn't exist, and therefore the awareness is the illusion of an individual that is interacting with its environment. So they're both in direct contrast, and yet they can't exist without each other. It's if there is no self, then what is awareness? And if awareness exists prior to self, then or post the self as it appears, then can awareness be aware of itself without the individual? I don't know. It's just it's a paradox with that.
It is, but you see that's pretty much where I'm going with it as well. Is just this very idea of knowing. There is no knowing, but in apparent day to day, all right. What seems to be happening here for this Maxx whatever is, I'll put it differently. I do not doubt anymore. Well, not only that's what I do have people, because I mean I see that with my own eyes, and but that it will grow and grow and grow and grow in the sense that it will reach a lot more people, because the way I speak, I don't know, it speaks not necessarily yet, but what seems to be happening, let's put it like this, is that it speaks basically to masses, not only so potentially to people with a so-called non-dual background, with a spiritual background, or just psychotherapy that have no idea about whatever, enlightenment or this or that, or enlightenment or awakening, etc., etc. And that's what seems to be happening. And in that way, I will say loud and clear, right here, right now, I know this is where it's going. And I'm not being arrogant, or I'm not lying, or I'm not, does that make sense? It's just what seems to be happening. That being said, for what I know, tomorrow I cross the street and I get smashed by a car.
Well, for me, it's always I have these two. I have the bookends of success and failure, in that it never ceases to balance itself out. In that I'll be talking to one person very successfully, and we get it. We understand each other, and we seem to progress in terms of a language between the two of us. And then always, the more successful I am on one side or with one person, there will be another person that is absolutely dead set against everything that I'm saying. Like, no. We'll fight it all the way, and it never ceases. It's just, and then there's everywhere in between those. But there's I tend to always have the same kind of I have my successes and failures always kind of balancing out somehow. So I'm yeah, which is I find almost soothing in a
Yeah.
way. It's almost it's to be expected in a strange way, but and that's again, you never know what's going to happen. You never know
Yeah.
anything, but in the truest sense, it
Mm-hmm.
seems to me that um, we literally don't exist in time and space as individuals and
Nope.
things. So
Mm-hmm.
for it appears as if there is a past. There appears as if there is a present and a future. There appears as if there's an individual that is aware. However, there is no individual or thing to be aware of. And so these and we're not we don't have free will. However, we appear to be interactive. I'm thinking of things. I appear to be thinking of things to say, and all of that kind of stuff is happening within a here and a now as it appears. However, none of that is actual. Like, for example, there are no ancient teachers or president. Even to say that there are no teachers or speakers or anything, I'm saying there are no teachers at all. Even within, like Buddha himself exists here and now within the framework of the context in which the two of us know of a Buddha and know of, and then whoever
Yeah.
might watch this
Yeah.
of this. So there's nothing for me personally that is outside of this apparent here and now. There is it's not an object that is relative to another object. It's not relative to another position. So this is not an object. It's not a thing. It's not. It doesn't contain things. It just appears to be a conglomeration of things. And one of those things is Howard. One of those things is Maxx. And
Right.
Howard and Maxx, are just like any other object, appear to have their functions or their abilities or just the
Yeah.
nature of what they are and the apparent
100%.
nature. And so here, Maxx and here, Howard appear to have this natural ability as the objects that they appear to be to interact with the other objects and each other. And so it's just like a rock has the characteristics of a rock. Howard has the characteristics of a Howard, and Maxx the characteristics of a Maxx. There's no it's not that the entire life of Howard seems to be based on this idea that I was born. I'm going through. I became self-aware sometime, and then and I'm trying to be comfortable until I die. And however, I can't know anything about before self-awareness. I can't know that
Yeah.
the self-awareness actually is occurring, and that there is no actual past or future in an absolute sense. And so all that entire story is happening right now simultaneously and sourcelessly and spontaneously out of nothing, as just this or whatever. um,
Uh-huh.
and I'm trying to get this one distinction from you. Now you're saying that um, are you interactive with, or is it an appearance? Um, do you think it's relative that Maxx is interactive with his environment or appears interactive?
Um, Neither nor. I don't question that ever, simply. So it would be like now, I mean, yeah, sure, I could come up. That's basically the answer I'm coming up with. Is just that for me, it's whatever seems to be happening on the spur of the moment is not questioned. That's the way I'll put it, basically.
Okay.
So, for example, yes, sometimes I mean, sure, I mean, the way I interact with my environment, and then it's not believed, it's never believed, but is being experienced by a Maxx. For example, if it's rare that either or actually happens still now, it does sometimes. That, for example, if I'm suddenly sad, which again is actually not even seen as sadness, but let's use words now, if that makes sense. So, oh, okay, and then yeah, there's this experience of a Maxx, not believed once again, but that is experiencing sadness, so interacting in that way with the situation, with the circumstances, or the other way around, like a jump of a, ooh, that's cool, wow, you know, again, same thing basically. But those extremes are actually extremely rare, or have been. I don't really remember last time. Not really, anyway.
What is very rare? What is very rare?
Sorry, what?
What did you say was very rare?
I said I don't remember the last time either or was experienced to be in a so-called, not extreme way, but in a way that would make me think on the spur of the moment there might be again this sense of separation that interacts or not. So basically, this very question you're asking is simply not a question for me. It's just and only what seems to be happening moment to moment. That's I think that's the best way I can describe it, basically.
Could you describe how you process subject object? How does Maxx process subject object?
Could you describe what you mean by subject and object?
Well, Maxx is going to cook dinner. Maxx decides to cook a specific kind of dinner. Maxx goes about cooking dinner. How does Maxx process? Maxx is interacting with the pots and the pans and the seafood and all that kind of, or whatever you're going to cook. So what I'm saying, for me, it's just a sliding scale where it seems like I'm being interactive, and it seems and it seems like, you know, at times there's more sensation than at others. At other times it seems like I'm on autopilot. I mean, I'm not even there. You know, I'm just kind of cooking before I even realize it's cooked. But there are different processes that some people will see from behind their two eyes. You know, some people say that they don't have a point of perception, and or they don't know how to answer the question. And for me, it seems relatively clear that the point of perception is just as everything else within the moment. Sometimes it seems like you're right behind your eyeballs and you're a person that is aware of other things. And then at other times it seems like you're not even in the room with your body. You know, it's not even relevant at all, even though your body seems to continue to be interactive.
Yeah, you see, it's actually an interesting question, because again, I never see it like this, but okay, I see what you mean. And again, I think that's what I would call in my terms, basically this idea or this sense of control or no control, of free will or no free will. Ultimately, in the absolute sense, there is no free will, obviously. In practice, well, I mean, I have decided to talk to you today, knowingly so, basically. So that's the way I would phrase it. But as far as your example, so cooking, no cooking, there is no apparent noticing here, okay, in this body laptop, either or. It's just basic. I mean, for example, I could say like, Amy, tonight I really want to cook. And she's like, but I want you to cook me a lovely pasta. I'm like, sure, darling, fuck, I'll do it. And trust me, in that moment, it feels like I decide something that I don't want to decide. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But there's no question. There's no questioning around that. It's just the beauty of life.
Say, well, you wanted to do it the whole time. I just helped you understand that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I interrupted. Go ahead, please.
No, that's fine. That's it. Really, it's just. in that moment, sure, there is a like, ooh, I would even say this, simply say it, well, I don't want to cook. So this I doesn't want to cook, but there's no question again what this I is or what is happening here, etc. It's just what I say on the spur of the moment. So those questions, I just don't go there. It's just, it's seen here, it's perceived here, basically, as it is what's happening, and it's just what's happening. I'm not trying to change it, basically. Not actively so, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, and even the act of wanting to change it is just what seems to be happening.
Nonsense.
So, it's basically, you know, from what I can gather, it's both in that, you know, it's totally free and random, chaotic, anarchistically unknowable, and it is already whole and complete. It seems to be both to me. It's not either or. And then which I think blends with the appearance of the moment. It just seems both interactive and also autopilot.
Yeah.
I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's just all these things happening simultaneously all the time. You know, this unknowable and also completely already done. You know,
and I think once again for me it comes down to the natural likes and dislikes, which change all the time anyway, of the so-called of the body laptop. I'd rather say body laptop than individual, but or the computer with legs, I like that one too. But because for example, if the computer if your so-called body laptop, the one that is labeled Howard, has a natural liking to non-duality or non-duality, as I englobe non-duality as a general term here, right? Well, then you're gonna talk about it and you're gonna enjoy questioning these questions without the need for an actual answer, because you know there isn't one, basically. And once you know there isn't one, well, do you really know that? Anyway, you know what I mean. There is, so it's just the apparent enjoyment of that apparent body laptop individual. And like I said, for me, it's not that. I mean, I do enjoy talking about it, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But it's not the prime, what seems to be the prime natural like. It's what seems to be the prime natural like is to help people get the fucking point. I take huge enjoyment in then pointing people, but for this, but then once they get the point, most of them actually just then they basically they're like, well, I mean, we're talking about nothing. That's it. Yeah, that's it. And once it's clear that the point has been clear, most of them actually don't want to talk about anymore. They just go on with their life. No, maybe they make big changes in their lives. You know, sure. Like, oh fuck, I'm gonna stop this job, for example. Sure, that can happen. Good for them. You know what I mean? But they just go on with their lives. Amy, my wife, she's just like gets the point as well. No question. She hardly ever talks about it, but because she helps me business-wise, of course, then she's invested a lot in it. But again, her prime like in there is to help her husband. I'm very lucky, basically. Let's put it like this. Do you know what I mean? So again, for me, those questions, there are questions I will find interesting to tackle if I know, or if I believe, if I think it can help somebody in particular. Exactly. But they're not questions I ask does that make sense? They're not questions I ask myself like that because it's clear.
Well, the thing is that clearly, what I have been running across is, for one thing, as I said, everybody's different. But then at the same time, there tends to be a playbook kind of rhetoric that I'm trying to.
Agreed.
Agreed. I'm trying to expand the parameters in that, and put myself in the framework of an individual that had no idea, when you say things like, or when people speakers say things like, well, there is no you, and no matter what you say, you just nip it in the bud. There is no you. There's a okay. Well, if there is no me, okay, and putting myself in the
And
in
the
the seat
shoes.
of the speaker, and being able to ask that speaker, okay, well, how do you see subject object? Um, Believe it or not, I mean, you're very forthcoming. Some people are very taken back by the question. What I realized with some of these speakers, a lot, or, several, some, I'll say, um, don't want to be questioned about anything outside of the playbook. And I find that to be
Yeah.
um, something of a, I don't sit well with that. You're asking me to come in and listen to you go on a spiel about a menu of options that's convenient. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, what is this? You're giving me a spiel, that you don't want to be challenged about. And not that I want to challenge people, but at the same time, it's clear and obvious that what we're doing here is staying within a bandwidth that is is conducive to your message. Whereas if all I have to do is ask a few very simple questions that are relative to the both of us because of the shared
Absolutely.
reality, because we both exist as appearances in a medium that is indifferent to the wants, needs, or desires of the individual that does not exist in an existential reality. So that there is only one object of truth, that there is no object of truth. But as people in the context of appearances having a conversation, still to say that you don't want to go beyond the the recipe of what you're cooking here is to me a little bit of a, if I was a seeker, I would say no, immediately no. I would say no, 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 no. You cannot tell me, it is like this, and then when I ask you a question, you can't answer me. Then or you
Yeah.
say, oh, that's just irrelevant. No, 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 it's not irrelevant because for example, in the cause of subject object, how do you process subject object? There are people that will try to tell you that they don't, and it's like, okay, well, how
Yeah,
does the story
yeah, yeah,
unravel for you without a point of perception? And they can't answer that, or even to just get into the question, just to get it on record that, look, I don't know, because and that's
exactly. Yeah,
essentially what just to get the person to say I don't know is, and it's like, okay, that's a green light to me, because
yeah,
what that says is, here's a person that clearly has something that they want to say, but they don't know
yeah, yeah.
everything. They haven't thought
Of course
everything,
not.
and they're not trying to cover that up. And so,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
for
I
me,
hear you. I hear you.
as an interviewer, I see so many people get interviewed in the same way. I'm trying to, try to come up with elaborate ways of having an intimate conversation with somebody that does not believe that they have any interaction whatsoever. And and then when to say, okay, if you're not interacting at all right now, then what does this appear to you as? And this
Yeah,
question is in the context of a Q&A. If we're not having a conversation as it appears, how is subject object appearing to you? And
it's, yeah, yeah, yeah,
and from that perspective, if they say, well, I don't even know how to answer that question, well,
yeah.
then the next question would be, so you don't see from a point of perception. And from there, so it's one of these things that someone say, well,
But no,
all those questions left me. Well, yeah, but they didn't leave everybody. And in this way, I'm trying to have a more interesting conversation, a more
yeah, yeah,
interesting
yeah, yeah. Too. I
in-depth
hear you.
interview, as well as to being more informative, or at least to show to the seeker that we're not scared. There's no subject that can come up that we can't talk about and won't end up in unknowability, because we don't know. We're just saying things. So there is no knowing anything. None of this has anything to do with knowing. So and plus on top of that, I'm just curious because I know for myself how it appears to me. Now, the first time I asked somebody that question, subject object, and how they process it, I was really taken back. But it seems to me to be one of the more intimate kind of things you can ask somebody. And a lot of speakers don't like to talk about their lives as if they have one off of the stage. And so for me, it's just a way of being sneaky and trying to get trying to expand the conversation without getting off the message itself. You know what I'm saying?
No, I hear that, and for me, it's exactly what you're saying. In the end, here, I think it should be the other way around. In the sense, I think it's great to show people, to some extent anyway. I can have a private life, obviously, but to some extent anyway, how is your day-to-day life? Because the thing is, it really is the most ordinary. It's just it's. I mean, if it's ordinary, it doesn't mean that you can't want to travel, for example. That's not what I'm saying, but you know what I mean. It's
ordinary
just
means a lot to a lot of different people.
Ordinary means a lot, exactly. Ordinary means a lot, or nothing. It's ordinary. It really is. I think, you see, for example, I actually I made a video about a month and a half, 2 months ago. I was struggling for about maybe 3 weeks. I was really struggling with making videos. Like, I felt like, because I was for a lot of videos, I was what's the expression? I was basically pounding down the table, like, there's nothing to understand. There's nothing to understand. Trying to use different ways, but always pointing to that point. Because it's something I do to a certain extent in the one-to-ones that I give. And it works well on one-to-one because I confront the seeker, not the other way around. That makes sense. So, but in a video, sure, one, why not? 10 is something else. So my point is, I was struggling with making a video to the point, my God, I felt like, it's like I don't know how to speak anymore. And I felt like, I was like, my God. And so then my lovely wife told me, why don't you make a video about the fact that you struggle about making a video? I was like, no, there's an idea. There you go. So what? Exactly. So what I did, I mean, I take my phone and I start talking, and I didn't know what I've been struggling this and that, and I started to cry. It was obviously not planned, but I started to cry, and I thought, brilliant, use that. And I honestly, I asked a few people before, like, do I put it on YouTube or not? Because some people will feel like, it's like Fred Davis. I found him amazing for saying it. Fred Davis said once that he takes antidepressants. Now, it does raise the question whether does he get the point or not, but hands down for saying it. As a teacher, hands down for saying it. I respect that. Beautiful, exactly.
I try not to. And basically, please go ahead, sir.
Do you know? So anyway, and so it's this showing basically the not necessarily vulnerability. It's not what I'm saying, although it can be seen as, sure, but the authenticity, the natural. So I end up, and it's beautiful because on that video it makes me laugh because the message I'm saying is just, it's just what's happening. Is just, you think you have emotions as a pointing as in not they are. I mean, as a pointing, there are no emotions, but they seem to be happening. Basically, it's pretty like this. And so I'm crying, and I say, I have no problem with that right now, something like that. And then when I said this, I just stopped. I'm like, and there you go. I stopped. I so-called decided to stop without actually deciding it. I forgot how I phrased it, basically, but that was the message, basically. And the funny thing is, it's many people said, oh, wow, amazing video, this and that. And like, of course, because you're truthful to who you are as an apparent individual. Does that make sense? That's all it is. That's all it is. Yeah.
For me, that's always the way out is to go straight at the most honest, direct, like way to do it. Say, for example, I have no idea. Like, I don't even know how I ended up interviewing people other than I didn't know how to do it myself. I didn't know how to put the videos out and this and that. So I started like piggybacking on other people's stuff. And then from there, I got, started doing my own thing. But I just never have done my own thing. And then, so it's just funny that I'm going to start doing that. With a friend of mine doing live podcasts pretty soon. With a friend of mine.
Nice.
Yeah. But it's funny because it's just everything that that I direct at different speakers and stuff. I feel sure will be directed at me live, and or if it even gets off the ground at all. But we're just doing it for fun anyway, so it's no big deal. But it would be nice to get some feedback on it. But it occurred to me that I am this person that will watch people's links and and I'll say, okay, well, I need to figure out how to get them to talk about this or that, and see if I can expand on their ideas in a positive way. And then sometimes I've just been kind of a jerk about other teachers, and I feel sure that I'm going to get all of that. And insofar as I try never to be critical, but I feel as if there's always this weird thing about walking a line with social media where there's no place to step where you're not going to be criticized. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No matter what you do, you're
it's
going to
impossible. It's impossible. Exactly. It's impossible.
Yeah.
It is.
So
but I find it amazing.
Be honest. Yeah.
Have you actually started this podcast, or are you about to? You said.
I'm about to. It's I think it's my friend Walter Driscoll and I were talking about.
I figured that was Walter. I love this guy. I love this guy.
Walter's great. I love that guy. But yeah, he's we're talking about doing that. I think in the middle of December. I think starting. So which is a weird time to start. So, but we'll see what happens. I'll need him definitely. I hope it works out. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and try to get my feet wet in that arena and see if I can make any waves. But
that is cool.
I think in some ways, listening to people answer some of these questions has really it really lit up. It's just fascinating to me because very few people answer the questions in the same way. Very few. There are some people that really stay on this kind of a playbook that they won't come off. Which I don't. That's not really my style. I like a free flowing thing a little bit, but that's not to say that's not perfectly great for whoever. But I'm like with you. I'm with you. I like to personalize it a little bit to the individual I'm talking to.
Yeah. Always.
Particularly in an interview, but in a or in a Q&A. But the people that are very clinical and very staying on that message are beautiful in their own right. However, it's been the guys that have not been afraid to speak openly, like you have here today, and I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you. My pleasure and my honor as well to to be invited by you. It really is. It's really nice. And yeah, I really hope your podcast. I'll definitely check it out.
Well, you gotta come. You gotta
please,
be.
oh my God! If you, I didn't want to invite myself, but if you don't want to invite me, I'll happily come. Happily.
Forget about
Happily.
it. Yeah, I mean,
Cool.
I don't know how all that's gonna work out. But absolutely, gosh, if I could, if I could count on you on coming, that'd be great. So
Yeah,
that would be
that's
amazing.
cool.
Yeah,
That's cool. Let's do that. Let's do that.
So that's gonna be we're shooting it for the middle of December next month. How about you? What do you got coming up?
What I got coming up is I got my new website being launched hopefully in 2 weeks, but each time I speak to someone,
you got
it's gonna be in 2 weeks.
Website coming up.
Yeah. So basically, it's the same address, but it's being completely rebuilt. So see, for example, part of the money that I get from what I do as a job goes back straight to the business, because that costs a lot of money, basically. And I mean, part of it, don't get me wrong, part of it is just for me. Obviously, I would like to move into having your house. I mean, anyway, living. You get my point. So what's coming up is so new website. So we've been working with a web developer, web designer, really website designer, and my wife has been doing incredible amounts of work there. So what else? Professional. Well, then just for me, it's just keep doing YouTube videos and keep having clients and just see where it takes me. And for now, it's taking me on a very nice journey. So I enjoy myself. As for the rest, otherwise, just personally speaking, we're gonna go to the UK very soon to spend some time with my stepmother. Just mother-in-law. Sorry, mother-in-law.
You gotta smile when you say that, brother. You can't
do
shake
I?
your head down and snarl when you say that.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's lovely. She really is lovely. I love her to bits, and plus it's in a very nice area, nature all around. So I always like to be in nature. So yeah, no, just that, and then otherwise, I don't know, day by day, just enjoying every day. Honestly, I'm blessed. I'm healthy. I'm healthy. I'm happy, and I do what I enjoy every day. So, just.
I'm glad to hear
I'm
that.
blessed.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I really appreciate you giving me this time. And if hopefully we can do this again real soon.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
let me I'm assuming you're up for the podcasting. So I'll definitely give you a call on that. And do you mind if I give you a call in a couple of months for another interview?
Howard, absolutely. I please put me down. Just reach out anytime, and yeah, absolutely. I would love that. I would really love that.
Right back at you, man. Anytime you want to, anytime for any reason.
Well,
let me know.
Yeah. Will do. Will that end up on YouTube, by the way? This talk here?
Oh, this one, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
This one,
nice.
I'll talk to my tech guy probably tonight or something and see if I can get it put up as soon as it comes out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, Howard.
We're starting to streamline our process a little bit more. It was rough there at first. It was like I was having to wait like 6 weeks to get something put up. But now I'm starting to learn the process a little more, and hopefully the podcast is not from what I understand, it seems like a pretty easy process. So we're just going to turn just like I started this. I was just turn the camera on and start talking. Hopefully I'll get if I can just get one listener, I'll be fine.
I'm sure we get more on that. I'm sure. But yeah,
it's been so great talking to you again, man. Thank you.
Thank you. You too, brother. You too. I'll see you soon.
I'll see Hopefully. You soon, man. Talk to you soon.
Take care,
very
buddy.
much. See you later,
Thank you. Bye, buddy.
Awesome.